Welcome into Off the Hook Sports, everybody. I am your host, Caleb Calhoun. A lot to get to today. As you can see in my backdrop, I am in California right now. That's right. I'm in California right now. My wife had a conference, a work trip at Anaheim in Disneyland. So we are taking Quincy to Disneyland this weekend to have a little fun. So that's why I'm doing the show from here. We do have a lot to get to, though. And with that, we have a few things to discuss. Talk about Joey Aguilar being Tennessee's greatest underdog story. Is the possibility given everything that's happening right now? We're going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff he said yesterday in his press conference. Chris Brazzell's driving privileges restored. What does that mean for Tennessee? Is he ready to roll? Lane Kiffin continues trolling Tennessee. We're going to have a lot to say about that. EA Sports college football ratings are out, and Week 0 picks are here. I'm going to bring those to you, and it is time, guys. College football is here. Let's get rolling. Hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn your notifications on. And we are ready to get things off and running with today's tough question. And first of all, let's point out the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Led by T. Scott Jones, Banks & Jones, banksandjones.com. We broadcast live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville. New and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. That's it. That's Ted Russell Ford Lincoln, the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio. Let's get rolling with today's tough question, guys. And today's tough question surrounds Joey Aguilar. Joey Aguilar spoke with the media Wednesday and talked about his path to Tennessee. For those who don't know, Joey Aguilar was a junior college quarterback who then he had redshirted his true freshman season at City College of San Francisco. Then he transferred to Diablo Valley before the 2020 season. Diablo Valley did not play 2020 due to COVID. Aguilar took over there as a starting quarterback in 2021 and 2022 after winning the quarterback battle halfway through the 2021 season. And then he transferred to Appalachian State, where he was with the last 2 years. Transferred to UCLA, expecting to be the starter there, but Nico Iamaleava happened. Sean Foster went out to try to get Nico Iamaleava, and then of course then he transferred to Tennessee. Guys, 1 second, I'm going to change positions real quick because the sun is just right in my eyes. I didn't think that through when I did this, did I? All right, stick with me, guys. Amateur hour here on Off the Hook Sports. I hope you guys are okay with that. Oh, much better. Okay, so yes, amateur hour are on Off the Hook Sports, where I had to turn because of the sun. But anyways, we're talking about Joey Aguilar, and Joey Aguilar was at junior college in 2019 where he enrolled, and then he redshirted at City College of San Francisco. He then transferred to Diablo Valley before 2020. Diablo Valley didn't play in 2020 due to COVID. He was their starting quarterback in 2021 and 2022, winning the quarterback battle halfway through the 2021 season. Then he transferred to Appalachian State, where he played in 2023 and 2024. Then he transferred to UCLA, expecting to have one big chance at the Power 5 level, and then got screwed because of the Nico Iamaleava situation and had to transfer again and somehow landed up at Tennessee. However, before he got this far, Joey Aguilar did consider other careers. And one of the careers he considered was being a fireman. So we're talking about a guy who was almost a fireman, who then was stuck in the junior college route trying to find a place to start and fighting for a starting job, who made his way all the way up to being the starting quarterback at Tennessee. With that in mind, is Joey Aguilar, could he potentially be the greatest underdog story in Tennessee football history? That is today's tough question, brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. And it's the poll question. We're going to set it up. Could Joey Aguilar turn out to be the greatest underdog story in Tennessee history? And we'll say yes and no. Now, the reason I bring this up is because, guys, Joey Aguilar, think about this for a minute. Joey Aguilar was almost not going to play college football. Then when he decided to, he labored for 3 years in junior college and had to fight to win a starting job. Then he lands at a group of 5 school, has to fight to win the starting job, and finally gets his shot at a Power 5 school, but a lowly Power 5 school with a very bad head coach in Deshaun Foster, just total desperation to try to make something work. But then out of the blue, he lands at Tennessee. How does that happen? That's incredible. And if Joey Aguilar really works out at Tennessee, we're talking maybe, again, the greatest underdog story in Tennessee football history. And I want you guys to kind of throw some names out if you guys have anything in mind, because I mean, the closest to it, obviously, in recent years was Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker got railroaded by Virginia Tech, as we all know. For those who don't know the story, Hendon Hooker had COVID, but it wasn't like light COVID. Hendon Hooker, because of, I guess, some pre-existing condition, was one of those people that did have a really, really bad effect from COVID and got really sick, couldn't go in a game. His coach, Justin Fuente, at the time, went on TV and said, well, he couldn't go because he was just cold. And he wasn't cold. He was actually sick. He got railroaded by Justin Fuente. So then he transferred to Tennessee, committing to Jeremy Pruitt. Jeremy Pruitt's fired. Josh Heupel's hired. Josh Heupel tries almost sabotages Hendon Hooker to make Joe Milton the starting quarterback. Hendon Hooker stays with Tennessee despite that and still wins the starting job in week 2 and never looks back and becomes a Heisman candidate a year later. So right now, Hendon Hooker was a heck of a underdog story. But in terms of other underdog stories in Tennessee history, I don't really know too many, particularly at the quarterback position. Who's the last successful quarterback Tennessee had that they didn't intend to have success with? I mean, going back, Andy Kelly, they did switch from him to Sterling Hinton, but I guess Darrell Dickey. Maybe Darrell Dickey in 1985 when he helped Tennessee win the SEC championship. But Tony Robinson did the bulk of the work that year by tying UCLA and beating Auburn and beating Alabama on the road. Darrell Dickey did beat Miami, but Tennessee won the SEC championship with him running the table against lesser teams in 1985. People love the T. Martin story in 1998, but it wasn't like Tennessee wasn't all out for T. Martin. I get it. He had to replace Peyton Manning, and it was a great underdog story for a guy to have to replace Peyton Manning and then go win the national title. But let's not forget that T. Martin was a really, really, really highly touted recruit, and everybody wanted him. The same with Heath Schuler, Andy Kelly. Going into the 2000s, Casey Clausen was very highly recruited. Everybody wanted him. Eric Ainge and Brent Schaefer. Brent Schaefer was highly recruited. Eric Ainge wasn't, but it's not like he was an underdog story. He was in competition for the starting job from day one on campus, and they expected him to potentially be the starter. So you can't say that about Eric Ainge. After Eric Ainge, who are we talking about? Jonathan Crompton, not an underdog story. A comeback story, not an underdog story. Tyler Bray, an underachiever story. Tony Robinson's underdog story may be what he did in the NFL as a replacements with the Washington Commanders, where he basically, the movie The Replacements was about him at quarterback with Shane Falco. But I can't think of any underdog quarterbacks Tennessee has truly had. They've had underdogs elsewhere. Will Brooks just last year, a walk-on who never would have thought he was going to be an elite player, turned into an elite player. They've had underdog players at different positions, but truly at quarterback, I don't think they've had an underdog the way they have in Joey Aguilar. Joey Aguilar, if he has success this year, really would be the greatest underdog story in Tennessee football history and one of the greatest underdog stories in college football history. I mean, again, guys, a guy who was a fireman, who had to enroll himself in junior college, couldn't start at junior college, transfer because he couldn't start at the junior college he was at, then had to fight to start there. Then transfers to a low-level group of 5 school in Appalachian State, one that used to be a Division II school, and then transfers to a low-level Power 5 school, gets basically relegated at that Power 5 school because of another quarterback that shows up, and finds himself at Tennessee, a much better one. I don't know how you could say this isn't one of the best underdog stories, if he works out, that we've ever seen. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. BanksandJones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com.
The poll question up: could Joey Aguilar turn out to be the greatest underdog story in Tennessee history? 93% of you say yes, 7% of you say no. Now, I want to get to one that you guys are addressing, which is Rick Clausen. And as an underdog story, I understand that. And General Ursa says Rick Clausen's underdog story in 2004 was similar to identical to Dickey's in 1985. Somewhat General Ursus, but Rick Clausen only took over with 3 games left in the season. Daryl Dickey had to finish more than half the season, and Tennessee didn't win the SEC title in 2004. And on top of that, if Rick Clausen would have been Daryl Dickey had he led Tennessee to a win over Auburn that year in the 2004 SEC title game, that's when I would have really made it similar, because Daryl Dickey leading Tennessee to a win over Miami in the 85 Sugar Bowl, just a legendary moment in Tennessee football history. Rick Clausen in 2005 is an underdog story for what he did at LSU. That was an incredible moment. But, guys, that was such a disappointing year overall for Tennessee. I mean, Rick Clausen could not live up to the hype. The fact is, he had one great game against LSU, very much aided by Les Miles putting on a display of some of the worst coaching in the history of college football. Should have shown right then he's not a good in-game coach, just lucky. But Rick Clausen, after that, really proved that when Tennessee went all in with him in 2005, by the way, let's not forget, the players wanted Rick Clausen. The players were supposed to be loaded. The team was supposed to be loaded. The narrative of 2005 is a misnarrative. That narrative is that the players wanted Rick Clausen. Rick Clausen outperformed Eric Ainge, but Philip Fulmer wanted Eric Ainge because he had the bigger arm. So that's where the 2 quarterback rotation happened, and that derailed Tennessee. That's actually not fully true with 2005, because while that was a problem at the beginning, after Tennessee came back and beat LSU in 2005, Fulmer and the rest of Fulmer fully got on board with Rick. Rick became the full-time starter. It was his team. And all Tennessee proceeded to do was lose 4 straight later in the year. So when you take that into account, the real story is Fulmer was actually right. Rick Clausen wasn't good enough to be a quarterback in the SEC for a long-term period. And so I can't call him an underdog to a certain degree. Now, Josh Heupel, if Joey Aguilar works out, the interesting point on that would be that Josh Heupel would have had more success with underdog quarterbacks that were rejected, Hendon Hooker and then Joey Aguilar. I mean, taking that into account, you got to say that Josh Heupel, honestly, is obviously better with quarterbacks that he doesn't want. I would say largely because I think that he doesn't evaluate talent well. I've talked about that in the past. But at the same time, yeah, I think Josh Heupel is I think he is going to have more success with Joey Aguilar than he did with Nico last year, but I can't say he's going to have more success than he would have with Nico this year. Portions of the program brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations, your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. It's time for a little bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank member FDIC. Chris Brazzell. Chris Brazzell's driving privileges have been restored. Reportedly, Chris Brazzell had to just pay a fine and deal with a couple of things at court, and they expunged his record after he was arrested for driving on a suspended license last year. Not only that, Josh Heupel reported that Chris Brazzell was out at practice with Tennessee has been practicing with Tennessee this week, along with Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley. So the receivers seem to be getting fully healthy after that was a huge concern going into the year. Our very own, by the way, T. Scott Jones was Chris Brazzell's attorney. And if you're a big Tennessee fan, you should thank him because he helped make that charge. He helped drop that charge and get Chris Brazzell back on the football field to compete for championships. Chris Brazzell. I'm going to say something interesting about him. Okay, because I've said for a while that Chris Brazzell is the number 2 receiver. I now think he's full on in at the number 2 wideout. Tennessee's not going to have to find another wideout because with Chris Brazzell fully getting healthy and having his charges dropped, I think he's ready to roll. If he wasn't ready to roll, the debate about the number 2 receiver would have been Travis Smith Jr., Radarius Jackson, 2 elite, highly talented 4-star but true freshman, and this is a hard system to learn as a true freshman. Joaquin Dotson, a 3-star who was a true freshman who wasn't even there in the spring. That would have been an issue. Trey Weary would have been a walk-on. Amari Jefferson looked like he was showing out, but again, he was hurt in the spring, and he's only a redshirt freshman, and it's his first year in the system, so he could take a little bit of time. So Chris Brazzell was the ideal choice that you would want to start for Tennessee at the number 2 wideout spot opposite Mike Matthews with Braylon Staley in the slot. If that's the case, and if he's full going, I think he will be. And this is Bank on It. Brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. Chris Brazzell will absolutely be the key for Joey Aguilar helping Tennessee's passing offense thrive this year. More so than even, I won't say more so. He will be the X factor. He will be the X factor of Tennessee's passing offense thriving this year. Mike Matthews will be the go-to receiver to dictate coverage. That's self-explanatory. We know what Mike Matthews is going to do. Braylon Staley and Boo Carter will alternate in the slot. I don't think there's a lot of irreplaceable guys in the slot. The slot's a little easier to pick up in this system than the wideout role, so I don't think it'll be much of a problem. But Chris Brazzell as the complementary number 2 receiver will be the key in this offense. That is Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Here's why Chris Brazzell will be key in Tennessee's offense. And this is a very underrated part of his game. Chris Brazzell is the Ramel Keaton of this offense. If you guys remember when the offense was rolling at a high level in 2022, the go-to receiver was either Brew McCoy or Cedric Tillman, whoever could dictate coverage. Obviously started with Tillman. Tillman got hurt. Brew McCoy came in and became the main guy. Ramel Keaton was the complementary number 2 receiver on the other side to be the possession guy, to help the slot, to help the go-to wideout dictate coverage. Him being that complimentary and being that reliable is what opened things up for Jalen Hyatt in the slot to have a historic year and go win the Biletnikoff. Now, this year, I think that role will go to Mike Matthews because during that year, everybody was already rolling over to cover Cedric Tillman, and they didn't change much with their schemes once Brew McCoy got him. This year, nobody knows how good Mike Matthews is going to be, so they're not going to roll as much coverage over to Mike Matthews, meaning he'll have a lot of chances to make big plays. However, if he's going to have those chances, what's key is that Chris Brazzell commands some attention, and Chris Brazzell is a better version of Ramel Keaton. What makes him better than Ramel Keaton? He had 29 catches for 333 yards and 3 touchdowns last year. Chris Brazzell is the best receiver on this team at winning 50-50 balls. He's the best. And Joey Aguilar, as a gunslinger, is going to throw it up to him. Now, the 3-3-5 shell defense we've talked about that teams still might play against Tennessee just to not get beat deep, that will always have a guy on Chris Brazzell. But the difference between Joey Aguilar and Nico Iamaleava is that Joey Aguilar will be willing to throw it up when Chris Brazzell's covered. And if he's doing that a lot, then Chris Brazzell could, ironically, as the number 2 wideout, be the guy to dictate coverage, at which point Mike Matthews will go off. And I mean absolutely off. Because there's only, look, teams will get away with that one game. You'll see one team, one game, maybe not focus as much on Chris Brazzell. And then you'll see Joey Aguilar throw him the ball a lot. And then all of a sudden that's going to totally reset the narrative and everybody's going to cover him. I think Chris Brazzell is going to have a huge effect with that. Sam Schrock points out that Ramel Keaton catch against Florida. Fire, you're right. For those who don't remember, Tennessee was trailing Florida, and it looked like just another game that we're going to blow. This was in the first half in 2022, and then Ramel Keaton makes a diving catch. That changes everything. Tennessee goes down and scores, and then it's off to the races from there. Derek says, I think Mike Matthews could be our first NIL bust. That would be a shock, Derek, if it was. Remember, Mike Matthews, the reason he struggled a little bit last year, we have to insist the fact that it is tough for true freshmen in this system to pick up the offense. The offense is harder for true freshmen receivers. The offense is harder for receivers to learn than quarterbacks. That's what was crazy about the offense, is that it's harder for receivers to learn than quarterbacks. Now, experienced receivers can pick it up a little bit quicker, but true freshmen have to learn about anticipation with quarterbacks and things like that. That's going to be a lot tougher. I'm sorry, guys. I heard some birds chirping really loud, some crazy crows out here. I'm not as familiar with the West Coast. This is only my third time out here. So, but anyways, yes, I do think Chris Brazzell. I think that Chris Brazzell is familiar with the offense. I think Mike Matthews being familiar with the offense will be much, much, much more effective this year. And Adam brings up the great point. Nico was the first NIL bust. I mean, for Tennessee, you're right. I mean, that was a total bust. They literally went to battle the NCAA on behalf of Nico Ihmaliava, and then he spurns them and leaves to go to UCLA. That was crazy. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. HempHouseChat2Ts.com, HempHouseChat2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. Guys, when we come back, Lane Kiffin keeps trolling Tennessee. What the H? We're going to talk about that. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem.
Oh boy. Yep. You're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good,
You're gonna need a new one ASAP.
you are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications. Again, we are represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, BanksandJones.com. Broadcasting live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Lane Kiffin. Also, before we get started, portions of the program are brought to you by HoundDogs of Knoxville, champions look good in orange, hdknoxville.com, hdknoxville.com. Lane Kiffin. I'm out in Southern California, where Lane Kiffin wishes he still was. But he's having a blast trolling Tennessee and Auburn and whoever else he can in the South. Lane Kiffin has decided to, after spending most of the all-season trolling Hugh Freeze and Auburn, which I'm all for, has decided to throw another bullet at Tennessee, which we know Lane Kiffin's got a great history of trolling Tennessee. Ole Miss is going to open the season against Georgia State a week from Saturday. They host Georgia State at 6:45 p.m. Eastern at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. Lane Kiffin shared a tweet on Wednesday saying, "Need the vault loud. Ole Miss, this was at Tennessee," tagging Ole Miss in Tennessee. and showed a graphic of Georgia State beating Tennessee 38-30 in 2019. Yes, Lane Kiffin did that. Lane Kiffin showed a graphic of Georgia State beating Tennessee 38-30 in 2019 because Lane Kiffin's trolling knows no bounds, guys. No bounds whatsoever. Let's not forget that that's not the only time Georgia State has beaten an SEC team. Okay. They did beat Tennessee on the road. That is true. But if you guys forget, they also last year beat Vanderbilt 36-32. But Lane Kiffin didn't do that. He went to the Tennessee game in 2019, the one that Jeremy Pruitt dropped when Tennessee fell at home to Georgia State 38-30. Now, the funny thing about that 2019 Tennessee team is it had one of the stronger finishes to the year in college football. And it had everybody believing that Jeremy Pruitt had truly just inherited that big of a mess from Butch Jones. So a couple of injuries and things he was trying to work with at the beginning of the year are why they lost those 2 games to Georgia State and BYU. But then outside of that, they ran the table. Let's not forget, they won games as underdogs that year against South Carolina, Mississippi State, Missouri, and Kentucky. Now, the first game, that Vanderbilt at the end of the year that year was the first SEC game Jeremy Pruitt had coached that he was actually favored in. So a lot of us use that as evidence of how much of a mess he had inherited from Butch Jones. And while it's certainly true he had inherited much of a mess from Butch Jones, it is also true that we can't ignore the fact that the reason he was underdogs in so many of those games in 2019 was because of what happened at the beginning of the year when they lost to Georgia State and BYU at home in back-to-back weeks. Lane Kiffin, how can you not love the guy? I mean, honestly, I'm going to ask the poll question, and you guys can vote on it, but let me know. Lane Kiffin trolling Tennessee is annoying, funny, and entertaining. I'm going to go funny and entertaining. I mean, you guys can vote on it, on what you think about it, but I'm going to go funny and entertaining because, look, Lane Kiffin, guys, come on. Lane Kiffin is being Lane Kiffin, and while he doesn't have the most room to talk, I mean, homeboy has no SEC championships. He hasn't won a national championship as a head coach anywhere, or even as a coordinator, because remember, well, no, he did win it as a coordinator because he was there at Alabama the whole time in 2015. But still, Lane Kiffin still has very little room to troll a lot of times. But he still does it, and it's worth doing because the fact of the matter is Lane Kiffin, whatever else you want to say about Lane Kiffin knows ball, okay? Lane Kiffin knows ball, and Lane Kiffin knows enough ball to troll anybody he wants to troll. And I think that's what's so funny about Lane Kiffin with this. Because Lane Kiffin knew exactly what he was doing. Because it was such a backhanded troll, too. It was so funny because he was trying to bring out the point that Georgia State can do this, guys. Look what they did to Tennessee on the road in 2019. That's why, and it's, kind of trying to pretend it's an innocent, just trying to get people at Ole Miss to go to the game and have a little fun and, root for Ole Miss. And we need y'all to fill the stadium. We need our fans. You know what coaches typically say. But he added the Vol part. It was too easy for him for the Vol part because he just loves trolling Tennessee that much. I think one of the things that's different this time around, I think Tennessee fans take it a little bit better, not just because enough time has passed, because enough time has passed, but I think largely because Tennessee's having success now. I mean, they were in the playoff last year. Lane Kiffin was not. I think the trolling is understandably funnier, and I think Lane Kiffin even understands it, so I think that's why they have fun doing it towards each other. And with that in mind, I think that Lane Kiffin's trolling, I find to be more funny and entertaining than I do to be annoying. I also find it a little weird for a 50-year-old to be this active on Twitter, but what do I know? So many people that are trolling on Twitter now are a lot older than 50. And so, I mean, that's a totally different story. Now, we got 3 debates over Lane Kiffin. GBMFO says if he gets the UF job this winter, bet on it. Oh man, if he gets the UF job, that would be incredible if he got it. I'm not so sure he would, but Adam says he's going to take over at LSU or Ohio State at some point. Florida is small potatoes as long as their collectives are outspending them. That's a true point with Florida and now NIL collectives. But Adam, what you got to remember is that Florida is about to have a lock on the state in recruiting because of the fact that they're the SEC is now on a different level than the ACC, so they actually have it bigger than Florida State and Miami, which they've never had before, which is a big deal. And so that was kind of the interesting part of that. But Jenna Urza's asked, if Venables gets acked at OU, does OU make a move for Kiffin? Kiffin might want the OU job. It's a better job than Ole Miss, but is the gap significant enough to where you could justify living in Norman over Oxford? Guys, I say this all the time. Oxford's a heck of a town. I would need a tier 1 job to leave Oxford, and the expectations are not as high. I think Lane Kiffin likes Oxford, honestly. Portions of the What the H is brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
The poll question, Lane Kiffin trolling Tennessee is annoying or funny and entertaining. 47% said funny and entertaining. 53% said annoying. I'm asking a new question. Lane Kiffin in 2026 will be coaching at Florida, LSU, Oklahoma, or Ole Miss. Vote on the poll question there. Somebody did float Ohio State. It won't be Ohio State because even if Lane Kiffin did end up at Ohio State at some point, Ohio State's not firing Ryan Day, even if they have a bad year this year. One, the Big Ten is too top heavy and Ohio State's too loaded that it's literally not possible, no matter how bad, no matter how dumb, no matter how horrible the head coach is, it is not possible to have fewer than 10 wins at Ohio State this year. Ed Orgeron could have 10 wins at Ohio State this year. I keep saying that like Ed Orgeron didn't win the national championship, man. I'm so disrespectful, but we all know that Ed Orgeron had nothing to do with that national title. But I think it's literally impossible for Ohio State to not win 10 games next year. So the questions are, it'd be 3 hot seat coaches because Billy Napier, Brent Venables could both be fired this year. Brian Kelly could potentially be fired. So Lane Kiffin at 2026 will be coaching at Florida, LSU, Oklahoma, Ole Miss. You guys let me know on the poll questions there. I'm going to lean Florida. I think Brian Kelly will do just enough to not get fired from LSU. I think Brent Venables is going to get fired from Oklahoma, and I think Billy Napier is going to get fired from Florida. And I think Lane Kiffin at that point is going to decide he would much rather coach at Florida than Oklahoma because Florida is a better job, a significantly better job than even Oklahoma. It does outweigh the gap between living in Oxford, and also there's not much of a living gap because guess what? You get to live in Florida, in Gainesville. I get Gainesville's miserable. It's hot. It's terrible. You can get a beach, but it's not that far from Tampa. Get a beach home in Tampa. Hang out on the beach. Lane Kiffin can hang out on the beach. He can find all the young girls he wants to find because we know what Lane Kiffin's about. Kind of why he's staying in Oxford, guys. And yeah, I think that's how this would all land. Lane Kiffin will be totally at Florida next year. Book it. And man, if he is, that Tennessee-Florida rivalry would be hilarious. Never forget, what made Lane Kiffin famous for his brashness at the college level was when he took a shot at Urban Meyer in Florida when he took the Tennessee job in 2008. And just trolled Urban Meyer throughout all of 2009. And Florida hated Tennessee for that, even though they beat Tennessee that year. So with that in mind, I think Lane Kiffin at Florida would be hilarious. I mean, I would have hired him back if I were Tennessee. Lane Kiffin is the most fun coach to have in the SEC, and the SEC needs Lane Kiffin with no Steve Spurrier in there. It is crucial Lane Kiffin be in the SEC. So yes, I think he will end up at Florida next year. And man, that would be super epic if he did. But we'll see how that all plays out. The poll question up, Lane Kiffin in 2026 will be coaching at Florida, 17%, LSU 25%, 58% of you think he will stay at Ole Miss. Interesting. I didn't think it'd be that high with 58%, but we'll see. But the troll on Tennessee with Georgia State is funny for Tennessee fans now because Tennessee fans can look back and say, why did we ever hire Jeremy Pruitt? There's also another little method to the madness because there's rumors that if John Curry were there, Tennessee might have hired Lane Kiffin back. And then Philip Fulmer wasn't going to hire him back when he took over as athletic director. So there could be a little bit of bitterness there. Portions of the program are brought to you by Peak IV Hydration in South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health. Peak IV Hydration, peakivhydration.com. Link is in the chat. When we come back, EA Sports ratings for Tennessee football are out. We're going to discuss what they mean. Stick with us 2 minutes. Off the Hook Sports.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem. Oh boy. Yep. You're gonna need a whole new sink. If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP.
You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Hit that like and subscribe button. Portions of the program brought to you by Quality Tire Pros, serving Chattanooga community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive brake alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. Walk in and say, hey, Bo, Off the Hook Sports sent you. EA Sports ratings for Tennessee are out. And they'd come out earlier in the summer for college football 2026 video game, but they have now been updated with the end of fall camp. And some of them just don't make sense. It is time for Hot or Cold, brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates, facebook.com/Sports Treasures TN, facebook.com/Sports Treasures TN. Here's how we're going to play a little Hot or Cold on this. We're going to go to each position group, and we're going to go to the highest rated player in that position group. And I'm going to tell you if I'm hot or cold on them being the highest rated player per EA Sports in that position group. Some, it's only whether or not I disagree with, even if I understand why they did it. Some I flat out think are ridiculous. So let's get rolling. Hot or cold right now. We start with the quarterback spot, and that is Joey Aguilar at 82. Pretty low, one of the lower ones on here. I'm hot on that. I'm fine with it. Joey Aguilar, as much as I think he could be a great underdog story, he did only complete 55% of his passes last year, but he's also the only proven quarterback on this list. So him at 82, Jake Merklinger at 76, George McIntyre at 73. McIntyre as a true freshman. I'm totally fine on this. Aguilar was actually an 80 overall in last year's game. So he has upped his rating a little bit. His speed is 83, power 89, toughness 91 in the ratings. Running backs. Star Thomas, 87. I get that Star Thomas is the most productive running back of anybody on the roster, and it's the most proven at this level. I mean, he had over 800 yards over multiple seasons. Was at Duke last year at the Power 5 level, is the most proven. But he's not better than Peyton Lewis. And he's probably not even better than Deshaun Bishop. He couldn't even average 4.5 yards per carry last year. There's no way Star Thomas is the best running back on this roster. If he is, Tennessee's in trouble with their running back situation. Dwayne Morris and Justin Baker, 77 and 74, both true freshmen. You get that. But Star Thomas, 87, Deshaun Bishop, 84, Peyton Lewis, 84. If Peyton Lewis is not 90 by the end of the year, that's a big disappointment unless Star Thomas just shocks everybody. I'm sorry. Star Thomas, I'm cold on that. Wide receiver. Chris Brazzell leads the way at 85. Again, I get it. The only proven receiver at this level, the only one with any track record of production. But Mike Matthews at 81, Mike Matthews better turn that to a 90 by the end of the year. Mike Matthews needs to be the best receiver on here to dictate coverage. I give Braylon Staley 76 because he's a slot guy who's never really played. Amari Jefferson 74, Rodarius Jackson 72, and Travis Smith Jr. 72, and Joaquin Dotson and Trey Weary both unrated. But I'm cold on this because I think Matthews will be the best receiver when it's all said and done. Miles Kitzelman, the best among the tight ends at 90. I think that might be a little high for Miles Kitzelman, but I'm hot on him being the best of the tight ends. Ethan Davis at 78, I think might be actually a little bit low. I would have like Miles Kitzelman at like 88 and Ethan Davis at 84, maybe 87 to 84. But Deshaun Bram and Zach Van Dorslier at 75 and 74, and then Cole Harrison at 66. Totally get all those. Bram and Van Dorslier, 2 true freshmen, expected to develop but haven't proven anything yet, so totally understand that. All right, now the tackles. This is where things are shocking because they're going to put Brazzle ahead of Matthews because of what Brazzle's proven. But at tackle, they've got David Sanders Jr. as the top offensive tackle at 80 and Lance Hurd at 79, even though Lance Hurd is the only proven one at this level. That's insane. That's totally inconsistent on their end because I even think Lance Hurd's going to be better than David Sanders Jr. this year. And I know that's inconsistent on my end, but it's a little bit different because I'm actually just projecting. I'm not relying on who actually has proven production. Lance Hurd doesn't just have proven production. He was very good down the stretch of last year, extremely good down the stretch of last year. And because of that, while I think David Sanders is a rare right tackle specimen, I think it's that Lance Hurd is too low. You need to have Lance Hurd at about 85. Okay, Lance Hurd should be 85, then David Sanders at 80. Bennett Warren at 74, Jesse Perry at 74. I'm fine with that. Jeremiah Hurd at 70, fine with that. Trevor Duncan at 67. I'm fine with that. But Lance Hurd needs to lead this group at 85 because then they go right back to just proven production on the next one where they have Wendell Moe Jr. leading the interior offensive lineman at 85. Sham Umarov at 81. Sam Pendleton at 79. He needs to be way higher. William Satterwhite, the projected starter at center, all the way down at 74. I'm very cold on this too because I think William Satterwhite and Sam Pendleton will be the best interior linemen. Wendell Moe will be a solid interior lineman. Sham Umarov will be solid. Messiah Reddick at 75. Brian Grant 74. Max Anderson 74. Gage Ginther 73. I got no problem with those. And then at defensive tackle, Bryson Eason leads the way at 84. I'm hot on that. Totally fine. Jackson Moy at 82. I think Jackson Moy could end up being a breakout player, but Rodney Garner doesn't play defensive tackles enough snaps to be breakout players. So I'm fine with that. I'm fine with David Hobbs at 78 because of the fact that David Hobbs has trouble staying healthy, and then Nathan Robinson at 76. Now, Josh Shell, Jamal Wallace, they should be in the 70s too as bodies that Rodney Garner's going to go with. And then you have 3 freshmen, Ethan Utley, Charles House III, and Isaiah Campbell. None of them rated yet. Defensive ends. Okay. Defensive ends. We're going to switch these up by defensive ends and then pure on edge rushers. The highest rated straight up defensive end who's going to play on the line. The highest rated of the group altogether is Joshua Josephs at an 89. I'm cold on that because I think Joshua Josephs was a complimentary edge rusher who benefited from James Pierce last year. I don't think he can handle the role on his own. But that's a different spot. We're going to go to Leo's in a second. Specifically defensive ends, Dominic Bailey and Tyree West are tied for the lead at 81. I'm hot on that. I'm fine. Tyree West has more talent. I think Dominic Bailey's a little more experienced and is a little more proven at this point and is a little more developed. So I might have him a little bit higher, but I get it. I'm fine with both of those being where they are. Now, House and Utley are actually on this list at 73 each, but I think they're going to play more in the tackle spot. Tyree Weathersby is third at 70. I probably have him a little higher. And Kellen Lindstrom is at 69. Now, as far as edge rusher goes, this is where I'm landing. Joshua Josephs is 89. Caleb Herring is 79. Jordan Ross is 79. I'm cold on that. I understand Joshua Josephs being the highest rated player of that group. And then Marion Dye, 74. I'm fine with that, by the way. And Emmanuel Coy, Carson Gentile, Jaden Lofton, none of those guys are rated. But I think by the end of the year, Jordan Ross will be the highest rated edge rusher. I think Jordan Ross is going to hit 90 by the end of the year. He's got all American potential. Watch out. Linebacker. Arian Carter leads the way at 84. I'm hot on that. Jeremiah Thielander's right behind him at 83. I think Arian Carter should be pushing 90, and Thielander at 83 is fine. He'll be pushing 85, 86 by the end of the year, but I'm very fine at Arian Carter at leading the way. I'm hot on that. Edwin Spillman, 72. Christian Gass, 71. Jalen Perlow, 71. Jaden Harmon, 71. Brendan Ains, 67. Ben Bolton, 62. Hot or Cold, brought to you by Sports Treasures. Again, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates. Facebook.com/Sports Treasures TN. Facebook.com/Sports Treasures TN.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
All right, a couple more hot or colds on this. Defense cornerback specifically. Jermon McCoy leads the way with a 94. Hot on that. No shock there. He should be a 94. I'm fine with that. Boo Carter, though, shockingly is high at 87. Ricky Gibson the third at 87. Colton Hood at 82. And Jalen McMurray at 80. That's pretty impressive that they got 5 in the 80s at cornerback. And then Caleb Beasley, 74. Marcus Corey Jr. at 73. Trey Potiat at 73. Freshman Ty Redmond is not in the game, but he's looking like a potential breakout player. Major kudos to EA Sports for doing this one, though. Safety, Jordan Thomas leading Andre Turrentine with at 80. Jordan Thomas rating is 81. Turrentine's rating is 78. I love this because anybody who watched Turrentine play last year, he's a smart player. I love the way he plays, but he's so physically limited. So even though Jordan Thomas missed all of last year due to injury, I'm very high on him being the best safety on this list. Idris Farouk is down at 73. Fine with that. Jackson Matthews at 71. RJ Stewart 70. Sidney Walton at 70. Timothy Merritt and Dylan Lewis unrated. Specialist, punter, kicker, long snapper. Jackson Rossley's the way at 83. I'm fine with that. Max Gilbert at 86. I'm hot on this. I'm hot on Jackson Rossley in the way, but I might have Max Gilbert up at 80. He hit multiple 50-yarders last year. But they do lose a long snapper, which brings us to long snapper Bennett Brady, who is a 68. And yeah, long snapper could be an issue, guys. And I tell you, if you look at stats, a lot of success for kickers comes down to long snappers more than anything else. Look at Morgan Cox in the NFL. Justin Tucker went from the greatest kicker of all time to struggling to make anything. Right after he lost Morgan Cox as his long snapper, and Morgan Cox goes to the Titans. The Titans had the worst kicking through 4 different kickers before Morgan Cox gets there. He gets there. They've now had the best kicking through 3 different kickers since Morgan Cox has been there. Don't sleep on long snappers, but I'm hot on Jackson Ross leading the way for that. Portions of the program are brought to you by the UPS Store Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated, 10629 Hardin Valley Road. When we come back, it's time, guys. It's back. It is officially here. Week 0 picks and bets. Caleb's Corner returns. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super Savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 Volume 4 dealer.
Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance.
Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications. We broadcast live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville. New and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. And we are represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. I'm out here in California today. For those questioning who came in late, I'm here in LA, or actually I'm here in Anaheim because my wife has a business trip out here and we decided to make a family affair out of it and take our son Quincy to Disneyland, which we are doing. We close out the show with picks and bets, baby. Caleb's Corner returns. Week 0 is here for college football. Who is excited about it? I know I am. There are 5 games tomorrow for week 0. There are 5 games Saturday for week 0. The big one, the marquee one, Iowa State plays Kansas State in Dublin, Ireland. Idaho State will visit UNLV. Fresno State will visit Kansas. Sam Houston will visit Western Kentucky. And Stanford will visit Hawaii also on that day. Lots of fun games. Caleb's Corner is back. I had a miserable year last year. I don't want to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about anything about how that happened last year. But I'm ready to give you guys my picks and bets this year. Again, here's how this works, guys. Here's how I do things. I give you my take on the spread and the over-under for every SEC game and every game involving 2 top 25 teams on the year. Then I give you my 5 best bets on top of that. And we track how I do overall, including best bets, and then how I do just with my best bets. Because these are the ones I would pick on. For my best bets, I always pick the best cover, the best not cover, the best over, the best under, and the best money line pick of the week. How am I going to do this year? I'm going to get you guys all rich. So let's get rolling. We start, and this is going to be 4 Downs, brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln, your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Let's get rolling. And first of all, I was asked to not do the voice imitations today, but I am going to break that. I'm going to not listen to that request. And I'm going to imitate Cooper Mays, because for those who don't know, as everybody knows, and do the hashtag DH in the chats, Dave Hooker is still out. He's dealing with a serious personal matter that he's trying to resolve. He has the soundboard, and the soundboard, whenever we do 4 Downs, we have Cooper Mays tee us off with each down. He has Cooper Mays' automated voice in there, but I don't have the soundboard, and I wouldn't have it anyway because I'm on vacation today, even if I did have it. So because of that, no soundboard, so I have to imitate Cooper Mays for the downs. So first we come through with Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe. All right, everybody. Cooper Mays just hit like and asked you to hit like and subscribe. Please hit like and subscribe, okay? Now, Coop here. First down. First down. We're going to go with the best cover. Kansas State minus 3.5. Kansas State minus 3.5. I'm taking them to cover all day. Both Kansas State and Iowa State had decent finishes to the year last year, okay? Kansas State ended up going 9-4. They were unranked with Chris Kleiman. They lost to Iowa State 29-21 on the road, to be fair. Iowa State, meanwhile, last year had a better season with Matt Campbell going 11-3 and finishing ranked in the top 15. On that service alone, Iowa State would seem like the better team. But Iowa State lost 2 huge weapons at receiver. They have to replace a lot more talent. And if you go by the SP Plus and FPI rankings, although both are in the top 25 and even ahead of Tennessee in the AP poll, which is ridiculous, most analytical rankings say Iowa State should be in the 30 to 33 range and Kansas State should be in the 17 to 20 range. I think that's too great of a gap. I think Kansas State will win. They'll cover. I see them winning by 4. It's a close spread, but I do think Kansas State covers on this. So again, Coop, first down, Kansas State covers minus 3.5. Cooper Mays here. Second down. Oh, second down from Cooper Mays. The underdog most likely to cover this week. Y'all ready for this? Sam Houston at Western Kentucky. Sam Houston plus 10. Western Kentucky is led by former Tennessee offensive coordinator Tyson Helton. They went 8-6 last year. Didn't do it with offense. They were terrible offensively. They only averaged 24 points a game. Meanwhile, Sam Houston, at the same time, managed to hire, if I'm not mistaken, Phil Longo the Wisconsin offensive coordinator who plays ball control. The combination of the two will keep this a close, low-scoring game. And with that close, low-scoring game, Sam Houston and Western Kentucky, I think Sam Houston will keep it within 10. More importantly, and this is a big thing, and I want to say this now, take the under in this game. It's not even my top under, but it's an easy under for me. It's an easy under for me. This game's not hitting 60.5 points. Not with Phil Longo playing ball control and Western Kentucky's offensive woes. It's not going to hit 60.5. That's the easiest one. But if I have to pick an underdog to hit at the plus, it's going to be Sam Houston plus 10. Upset pick of the week. We'll come to that, the money line of the week. But first, let's bring up third down. All this is Cooper Base here. Third down. Thank you, Coop. The over of the week. I don't like any of these overs, guys. I don't like any of these overs. I'm going to say that up front, but I'm going to lead still Kansas State, Iowa State. I'm going to take the over 51.5 with Kansas State, Iowa State. Now, again, I don't love that over because Iowa State lost 2 receivers, and this game's in Ireland where sloppy play is going to be expected when you fly across the country. But both quarterbacks are back. There's a lot of offensive talent elsewhere around for both teams. Both teams are offensive-minded teams to a certain degree. So I think this game's going to hit the over where I think like Kansas State's going to win 31-24. That's probably my pick, but it's barely hitting the over, and they barely cover. But I do think this game's going to hit the over, so I'm really big on that. All this is Senator Cooper Mays here. Fourth down. The under of the week. I like the under in so many games this week, guys. I love them in all of them. But I think my biggest under is Idaho State and UNLV. The under 65.5. This is Dan Mullen's first game at UNLV. If you know anything about the Urban Meyer, Dan Mullen spread offense, teams take a little bit longer to pick it up. They usually pick it up they usually have good first years. They do have good first years, but the offense really explodes the second year. It's not going to explode the first game. I think UNLV is going to win. They're going to win easily. They might even win 56-0, but they're not going to score 65.5 points. And UNLV's got a good enough defense to shut down Idaho State to a certain degree because of what Barry Odom left there. Barry Odom did build a defensive-oriented team. So with that in mind, I'm pretty my big thing is the under of that. However, what's my money line pick of the week? Well, I'll come back to that. First, 4 Downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln, your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer.
Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance.
Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
The money line pick of the week, Stanford at Hawaii. I think Stanford's going to win. I don't know why Hawaii's favored just by playing this game at home. I got Stanford. Hawaii's favored by 2.5. Pick Stanford. Stanford wins outright in an upset. I'm big on that. I have a lot of faith in Stanford pulling it off. Stanford last year did go 3-9 with Troy Taylor, but they now have Frank Reich as their interim head coach, and I think people are short selling the coaching issues to think Stanford can't win this game. When Hawaii last year went 5-7 at a lower level, it's hard to believe in Hawaii at all. Stanford will win this game. That's my money line pick of the week is Stanford wins this game. We'll see how that all plays out going forward. But guys, week 0 of college football is here. Who is not excited about that? Week 0 is the best thing in the world with college football, and we are ready to roll. It's finally here, and I get to enjoy being in California and going to Disneyland while it's here. But yes, take Stanford money line. So the recaps of my best bets: Kansas State -3.5. Sam Houston State +10, Stanford +2.5, Kansas State versus Iowa State, the over 51.5, Idaho State at UNLV, the under 65.5. If I'm being honest, though, my best bets of all are just all unders. I want the under for Idaho State, UNLV. I want the under for Sam Houston, Western Kentucky. And I might even want the under for Fresno State and Kansas, which is 50.5. But we'll see how that plays out. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, BanksandJones.com. We broadcast live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. I want to thank you guys all for tuning in with me today. Heads up. I'm on vacation, and I'm going to be off tomorrow. I'm going to be off tomorrow because, one, I'm on vacation, but two, it was customary last year when college football season is underway and Tennessee is not playing on the Saturday, we would be off that Friday. Technically, college football season begins this week. Tennessee's not playing on Saturday, so we will be off tomorrow for that. I will be off tomorrow. I will make sure to be back Monday to preview the start of the season, enjoying one more off day before we go all in on football season. So you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Again, hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bells, turn on your notifications, tell a friend, ring the bell. We are building something great here at Off the Hook Sports, and we want you to be a part of it. I will be back on Monday to talk about the preview of week 1. College football is here, baby. You guys have a great rest of your weekend with Caleb Calhoun. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.